Hi, Tim Smith, Coldwell Banker. Welcome to my July market update. Please click the link to follow. Before we go there, happy 4th of July, Independence Day. Looks like sirens behind me. That's for another story. Red, white, and blue here. July 4th, 1776, Declaration of Independence, Second Continental Congress, our independence from King George III. So I hope that you guys are planning a great weekend. My only advice would be buy some real estate, look at some real estate, have a great time with your family, but be present this year and drink responsibly. So today we're gonna have the July market update. I'm gonna bring out my phone because I have some notes, but hopefully I give you enough data and enough perspective and my pulse on the market, because that's what you're listening, that's what you're tuning in for. Click the link. I'm gonna pull it out because all of the headlines are still saying cooling market, and I'm gonna call that propaganda. Like, the data is scary if you look at it from one perspective, but if you look at it from the other perspective, it's not. So we're gonna go through the things that show both the data and the pulse on the market. But what I wanna just start talking about, too many people are talking to me and telling me this is very similar to 2008, 2012, the Great Recession. So let's just talk about those things, because this is nothing like the Great Recession. And no, we're not going to see another Great Recession. And keep in mind that although I'm very bullish on the Orange County coastal real estate market, I'm a little bearish on the overall economy, right? And so I think that is a very important point to distinguish, because as I talk to some of my most successful and wealthy clients, although there is a lot of fear based on whatever perspective they're in, as I talk to them, as we go through the data, as I really look at on it, I think the general consensus among all of them is our market, being Orange County, California, the best place on the planet to live, and I can support that. The market is not going to get any worse. So what does that look like? If we start with the 10 things that really identify the difference between the Great Recession and now. We're gonna start with inventory. The Great Recession, there was an insane amount of inventory in Orange County. It got up to 18,000 active properties in Orange County. Today, we're at 3,000. Give or take, right? So we're at 15, 12% of that inventory, totally different. Second thing, demand. We are seeing lower demand than we've seen over the last 2 years, right? But the difference is the demand there is totally different than the demand we have now. And what I'm gonna say about that, quick snapshot. Last year, we did 264 transactions in Orange County, which made us #1 in Orange County at just over 800 million. My group, 15 agents, 15 salary people. 51% of the buyers that we worked with, or the buyers that bought our listings, weren't from Orange County. That's up 3 times. And that is directly reflective of what's happening worldwide with COVID. And again, I've said this, and forgive me if I keep on repeating myself, but the biggest thing that's changed is now that working remotely is here to stay, and that won't change, people are thinking, well, where do I want to work remotely? Where do I want to live? They're factoring safety, schools, lifestyle, climate. Hey, if you look at all those things, you pull everybody, we're #1. Orange County Coastal is #1. And if you haven't been, come. Let me show you. I'm gonna try to show you over the next 6 months all of the great things about that Orange County has to offer, whether you're sitting in Wisconsin, Miami, France, Morocco, Utah, Montana, whatever it is. I wanna show you what our marketplace has to offer. And although bubble is not usually the right word, this little bubble of Orange County is beautiful. So you gotta come check it out. So low demand is similar, right? But what I'm calling low demand here right now is it's almost like if you're a surfer or a fisherman, when you're trying to surf and there's no swell, no waves, you can go paddle around and do what you gotta do, or you wait for the swell. The surge of demand is coming back, you watch. The government, the economy, they've thrown us into recession to hedge stagflation, because we don't want to be Japan of 10 years of stagflation. It is a very engineered or designed recession, But what you'll see differently now in my predictions is we will see buyers surge again. They're still in the marketplace, just not like they were last year. Third thing, balance of the market. And I'm gonna read this. With extremely high inventory and low demand, the market heavily favored buyers in the recession. Today, we have both low inventory and low demand, keeping the market more balanced. We're gonna call it a balanced market. Down payments during the recession. Low or no down payments were very common. Today, large down payments are standard and even all cash. People have never had more discretionary income or more savings than they have now. Lending. Lending during the Great Recession, almost anyone could get a loan. I had a friend from high school that lived with his mom that I still remember in 2006, we sold him in 7th place for $1,620,000. The guy was stated income. Now, today, the loan guidelines and restrictions are heavy. Like I have guys worth significant money, great businesses, and they are taking them through what feels like you're going over through the border patrol to get a loan that they totally should be able to get. So it's totally different from a lending standpoint. Credit scores, average FICO scores back then were under 650. They're average 745 today. Cash outs. During the Great Recession, people were using their homes like an ATM card. There was no equity, they were cashing out. Today, cash out refinance is at a minimum, but I think all you lenders out there, that's the next stage. With interest rates going up and people not stuck, having such great fixed rate, 10-year arms, 5-year arms, 30-year fixed, they have a lot of equity still, average over 50%, which is another huge thing. Back then, there was no equity. That's the next segment, I'd say, for lenders, some cash out refinance programs, which they're already on it. Delinquency rates. Delinquency rates, I think this is wrong, but when we look at it, it was 4.7. I felt like during the Great Recession, it was like 90%. I don't know of any delinquency rates because there's so much equity. It's 1 or 2%, and I think it's very specific. I think it was more like 10%. Equity. Now, from a standpoint of the Great Recession, there was $5 trillion in equity in the market back then. There's over 11, but when we take out our market, coastal Orange County, and that covers into Coto de Caza, whatever those areas, North Tustin, there's over 50% equity on average. And one thing that's not on here, I just saw a statistic, and I can't justify this or prove it yet, but I will. Over 70% of the homeowners in coastal Orange County have under 3% fixed rate ARMs or 30-year fixed, which if you're sitting there, like I'm sitting here, and you want to step up from a $3 million house to a $7 million house, but you have a $1.5 million 10-year ARM at 1.875, it's going to create some serious indigestion for me to step up to that 5-6 million, increase my tax basis, and then I'm gonna get a loan for 2.5, but it's gonna be at 5.5, 6%. That's another thing, really restricted inventory. Outright ownership, it's up almost 50% from the time of COVID, or from the time of the Great Recession. So all of these things are creating not only an environment, a snapshot today of no inventory, but long-term, there's no inventory. One thing I wanna add to that, the guys like me or the guys that are sitting here watching this that are thinking about that step up to the next house, in order for them to buy, that would unlock inventory. They're not going to. They're stuck by their great payments and they just really don't want to increase their tax basis. The other thing that I'm seeing on the streets, really on the streets, is construction costs. And I talked about this last month. We sold a house last year, $812 a foot, all in cost to build, right? Per square foot, that's soft cost, permits, everything. I had that house rebid. Now keep in mind, it started in 2019, finished in 2021. That same exact house rebid in January was $1,250. So it went from $812 to $1,250. That's a 50% increase. The other thing I'm seeing with building right now today is, it seems like with the bearish economy that you're gonna be able to build for less. But then you start looking at window and door packages that you ordered last month are up 12% on the next order because you have things like gas pricing, transportation, glass, all these things. So I see no end in sight of construction costs coming down. Now, will there be a reckoning if we see something economically? Maybe, but in the interim, There's not. So if you're looking at $1,250 to $1,400 a foot with all-in cost to build, you can't buy a lot and build a house and look at comps and justify you can make money. So 90% of our spec builders or our developers aren't building right now. So where is that new inventory gonna come with this unprecedented demand? We're going to continue to see this constrained inventory. And for all you sellers out there that have new homes that are building, I'm saying move forward, plow forward and build. Because although the comps don't support it, we will get you your price. It will be a win. I spent some time today and I'm gonna give a supplement. I went and drove and met with some of the homeowners of the 20 homes that burned up in Laguna Niguel. And there's some really interesting predicaments that are in there. The big predicament, the highest priced home in that neighborhood sold at $4.5 million, right? Now they're dealing with insurance. The insurance is coming them back and giving them a replacement cost that's way below what it would actually cost to get there. And the only personal experience, I bought a Raptor a few years ago. I paid $100 grand because you had to pay 15% over sticker, whatever. I put money into it. It got stolen out front of my house. When I went through the whole insurance thing, they gave me 65 grand. I'm like, how is that possible? I had 3,000 miles on my truck. It's 110. I just want my truck back. Well, they're going through the same thing. They just want their house back because if you look at it, to rebuild in that neighborhood, the homes were between $5,000 and $6,000 a foot. Let's just say $1,000 a foot to build right now. And that's the real numbers here in Orange County. You have $5 to $6 million to build that house, and that's not including the land. So you add the 1.5 to 2, right? And you're at 5.5 to 6, you're at 7.5 to 8, which the highest price is 4.5 for an older house production home. Will somebody buy that home at 10, at 11, at 9? My prediction and my advisement is yes. If you build it, there's enough people around the world that now know about Newport Beach, they will. So if you're buying, if you're an investor, there's a couple other things I want to think about and I want to summarize real quick. So yes, supply is rising and demand is muted, but the state of the market today is vastly different from that preceding the 2007 recession. Homeowners today are in a very different position, a much stronger position, higher equity, super low fixed rate mortgages, good jobs, more money in the bank than they've ever had, and ultimately have no need to rush to sell their homes and liquidate. Even if the market does continue to cool, it will be a slow process with nominal price decrease is what people are saying, but I'm saying no price decrease. Going back to my really looking with all of the successful people, our real estate market's not going to get worse. And if you're new construction, we will be setting all sorts of records because people that have money understand how difficult it is to build, don't want to do it from New York, Miami, wherever, France. They will pay the premium, which seems like a premium now, but it's not going to be. Now, quick snapshot of inventory. Currently, 2,604 single family residents on the market. 2020, 4,100. 2012, 7,100. So still 50% lower than the normal last 10-year inventory. Newport Beach, 134 active properties. Newport Coast, 31. CDM, 53. A little bit up from my last couple. Laguna Beach, 89 homes. Dana Point, 55. Luxury market, 47 listings over 15 million available in Orange County, which is not much more than last month or even first of the year. 28 listings over 20 million. Last month was 29, the year before, or the month before was 33. Close to date, 10 listings closed year to date over 20 million in OC, 23 listings closed year to date over 15 million. So that is on pace to do better, much better than last year. And one thing I haven't talked about, I just got all of the data on off-market. We're seeing the highest amount of off-market transactions we've ever seen, between 15 to 30%, which is not reflected in these numbers. There's only 3 ways to hedge inflation, right? But I'm just gonna talk about one, and the best one. The best way to hedge against inflation is real estate. Now, when you're sitting out there and everybody's sitting out there thinking the same thing, hearing about no refinances, hearing about private equity, all these things that are allegedly tanking, you're sitting, you're like, what do I do with my money? Well, actual inflation, based on the way I see it, is like 15 to 17%, right? They're calling it 8.6 based on whoever is calculating it. So if I have $1 million that I have nothing to do with, I keep it in cash, in a year it's gonna be worth 15% less. My $1 million is worth $850. I could double down on the stock market, and I think there's a lot of investors, if you're smart, now's the time. Money's made at the height of pessimism. Still, scary option to have a bunch of stocks with the volatility. Get in the bond market, it's safe, but interest rates have changed that dynamic dramatically. Private equity, other investments, angel investments, or real estate. A beautiful home, looking at the ocean. As our dollar becomes worth less, and as building costs go up, that house will continue to go up, right? You fix in your payments if you're buying it. In an inflationary state, rents will continue to go up while our dollar is going down. It is still a great place to buy. And for all those people that started buying homes in Orange County 50 years ago, where if you bought a house in Pasadena, you got a lot for free on Balboa Island, or you bought an oceanfront house in Emerald Bay for $32,000, those are now 30 or 40 million. My advice is real estate is your best hedge, and we are the ones to get it. Now more than ever, you have to be really, really strategic about how you use, or who you use. And I have a couple of examples where we just listed a house that multiple agents said you couldn't ever get over 30 million. We went at 50. The way I look at replacement costs in today's dollars, it's 45 without the 5 years to do it. We've had more showings than we've had on anything in this market, and we're working on more than 5-second showings, which proves to me those with the most money, with the most information, are surging back to real estate, and that trend will come down to all of us. We're here for you. This is my July update. Please click the link to follow. Tim Smith signing out. Have a fantastic 4th of July. Celebrate the independence from King George and the independence in your own life, and make it great with your family.